Welcome to episode 9 of the LAN Partners Podcast. My name is Connor, and with me is Dave.
Hello.
And Matt.
Hello, all.
So like I said before, the first episode of every month, we will have a retro review. So Matt will be doing Paper Mario for the Nintendo 64 for us today. I have a controversial game I'm going to review, which is Kingdom Hearts. There's been a lot of discussion about that. I'm going to get to the bottom of that. Dave's going to be talking about NBA 2K17. Our discussion topic for today is what do we think Nintendo's plan is with all these different avenues that they're going down right now. We have a couple of news stories to get to, and our list for today is our top 3 summer games. So games that we just have really great memories playing over the summer. Not necessarily games released in the summer, just fun games we played over, summer breaks and stuff like that. A little bit about us is we are just 3 guys who have full-time jobs, families, and other hobbies who just love the game. What makes this podcast different is that we will, of course, talk about new games, but we will also talk about games that came out 2 or 3 years ago as if they were new now. So you don't have to go looking through reviews from 3 years ago, looking for good games that are cheap now. We just want to share our experiences playing these games in case you're in the same spot as us where your gaming time is limited. If you're somebody who can relate to us, please download the Podcast by Apple app, Stitcher, Google Play for you Android users out there, or go on iTunes and hit subscribe. That way you get our weekly episodes uploaded to you every Thursday. If you have questions, discussion topics, or list ideas, please message us on Facebook or send us an email, thelandpartners@gmail.com, or leave a comment. Also, I've been saying this the last couple weeks, but check out our LAN Partner Twitch page. We've been uploading some gameplay there, just kind of something for extra that if you want to check out some of these games we talk about. So let's go ahead and kick off this episode with our monthly retro review. Matt, tell us about Paper Mario.
Yes, sir. So Paper Mario, developed by Intelligent Systems, and the game was released in Japan first, August 11th of 2000, and then it came to America February 4th, 2001, so almost a year later. It was originally supposed to be a sequel to Super Mario RPG from the SNES, so that was the original aim and goal, and then just throughout development, it turned into Paper Mario. So the game right now is on Virtual Console for the Wii and the Wii U. It's priced at $10 on Virtual Console right now. I looked on Amazon. If you want the original N64 cartridge with the box, pristine conditions, $230 you're looking at. And if you want just the cartridge used at GameStop right now, it's going to hit you about $40. So game is still valued pretty high, except on Virtual Console. But, I mean, that's obviously the ideal way to play. It's only $10. So a little bit about Paper Mario. You play as Mario, obviously, and it's pretty much that same, Bowser takes Peach and you got to go get the princess back, and that's kind of the whole story. But the different unique thing about this one is that Bowser steals this thing called the Star Rod, which is powered by these 7 star spirits, and they each have different powers and abilities that he scattered all the star spirits around the world, and your job is to go round up all the star spirits so you can use their power together to defeat Bowser. So that's the setup for the story. Each star is kind of like a different area of the map. So when you go into, like a lava type level or a Boo's Mansion type level, that's what you're doing. You're going after one of those star spirits. So the cool thing about this game was that it had RPG elements to it. So that's, like I said, it was originally supposed to be a sequel to Super Mario RPG. The cool thing about this one is that it had a lot of RPG elements. So it is a turn-based battle system. You do take turns, so kind of like a Pokemon type game or any other RPG game like that. And you can jump on your enemies. You can use Mario's hammer. And then you also have these special abilities you can use. And then you have companions along the way that you meet, and you have them join with you on your adventure, and you can kind of swap them in and out and use their abilities for different things throughout the game as well. You also get experience, which is usually not in a Mario type game. You get experience for your battles, so you can level, and then you get to level up different parts of Mario. So you can level up his health, level up what they call flower power, which is basically just his kind of like his magic meter, when you can use different abilities. And Another cool thing, which I don't believe this is a spoiler, but in certain areas of the game, you actually do get to play as Princess Peach. So you get to see from her perspective what she's doing while she's captured by Bowser, which I thought was really cool. The game on how long to beat right now, it's saying just the main story is about 24 hours. It's going to set you back. And for 100% completion of the game, collecting everything, they're looking about 32 hours. So only about 8-hour difference there. The things I loved about the game is the great art style. So this introduced the paper art style. So everything's in this kind of 2D, but in a 3D world. So Mario is flat, and when he spins, it just looks like a 2D piece of paper spinning. And they do a lot of cool little fun things with that, where you can fit through little slices in a prison cell or a wall, and because you realize that you're made out of paper and you can get through there. So. Or if you fall, you'll crumple up into a piece of paper, and then you have to jump out of it. Another thing, and the other thing that's awesome about this game is the RPG elements. So, like I was saying, being able to get experience, level up, become stronger, that I fell in love with that. I got so addicted to that, and that's actually something that's still missed today now in the Paper Mario series. The other Paper Mario games that have come out in the series kind of went away from that RPG element of leveling up Mario. So that's something that fans of the series have been long asking for. So we'll see if maybe in the future they try to bring her back again. Another pro is the great characters and dialogue. So the game's very witty, very funny. Dialogue will actually have you laughing, which is very rare for a game because there's no voice acting or anything like that. But just reading through the dialogue, it's very witty, very funny. The fights can be very strategic at times, so it's turn-based, but sometimes you find yourself having to think ahead, 2 or 3 moves to figure out where you can get this guy. So I enjoyed that. It wasn't just this easy Mario game where you could fly through. I like the varied areas of the maps, and there's innovative ways to get to them. So it's not just walk this way and you enter this world, walk this way, you enter that world. You have to find a way to kind of get to that world, and it's always in a different, innovative way. So I enjoyed that. The only thing I did not like about this game, which is just a personal gripe, I guess, is it has the old school kind of where you have to hit the save block to save. So once you hit that save block, if you go really far in the game and you die, then you're going right back to that save block. There's no checkpoints or anything like that. So it's a little challenging sometimes, or frustrating if you're having on a tough part. But
that's
most
the
people
old save system anyway. That's all in Nintendo 64.
You're right. So that can be frustrating, but most people will be able to look past that. At the end of the day, I give this game a 10 out of 10. I say this is a must-play for any gamer out there, especially any gamer that's into RPGs and just never got a chance to play this game. It's on the Virtual Console now, so you can play it on the newer systems. But yeah, 10 out of 10. It's not only is it one of my favorite games on the N64, it's one of my favorite games of all time. So anyone that's looking into that or interested in that, please check it out.
Yeah, Paper Mario was never a game that I got into only because of the RPG elements. But
yeah,
I loved it.
Yeah, it's a huge fan favorite from a lot of people. So that was our retro review. Matt talked about Paper Mario. So I'm going to talk about Kingdom Hearts, and there has been a lot of discussion amongst the LAN partners and others about it, whether this game holds up today. Because Kingdom Hearts, what I did is I went out and bought the Kingdom Hearts 1.5, 2.5 remix, where it gives you 6 games in one. So it gives you Kingdom Hearts Final Mix. It gives you Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, which is just because all these games have been re-released so many times, and the Final Mix means it's the final version. Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days, Kingdom Hearts Recoded. So what this whole pack gives you, it gives you 4 actual complete games and then 2 just cinematic movies, basically. So I'll talk more about that later. But so it took me 32 hours to beat Kingdom Hearts Final Mix. That's the very first game in the series. It's developed by Square Enix. The first edition of this game was released in March 2002, and this pack of 6 games came out in March 2017. So 15 years later, they're coming out with this pack of 16 games. A little bit about the game is just the main character, Sora. He's the character from Final Fantasy. Him and Riku and Kairi live on an island Heartless, which are the enemies, they take over and come attack them. They do the same thing in another world where the Disney characters live, with Mickey, Donald, Goofy, Pluto, all those guys. They live in a separate world. The Heartless also invade that world. So what happens is, like, all these crazy events take place and the worlds get combined, where Sora is now in the world with the Disney characters. So he goes around trying to find Riku and Kairi, while Donald and Goofy are going around trying to find King Mickey, they call him. So they run into each other, and that's who you're going through the game with. You go through the game with Donald and Goofy. It's got some RPG elements. You basically go through old Disney movies like Aladdin, Tarzan, which was Tarzan. That level was an extremely poor level design. There's a lot of bad memories in that level. But Alice in Wonderland, Hercules, just to name a few of them. So you do go through all these old Disney games, which is really cool. And that leads me right into my likes of the Disney World theme. I'm pretty into Disney, where I like the Disney movies and like the characters and everything like that. So being themed in those old movies and going back into Aladdin, one of my favorite Disney movies, was really cool. So I really like the Disney theming. The combat I thought it was tons of fun. It's basically your X button is strike, your square button is roll, circle is jump, and then you have like a magic button and special attack buttons and stuff like that. So I thought the combat was a lot of fun, rolling around, doing my combos and stuff like that. So I enjoyed the combat. Boss fights were very memorable because you fight those villains from Disney movies like Jafar and the girl from The Little Mermaid. What's her name? The big lady, Ursula. You fight Ursula.
Ursula.
Yeah, you fight her. I mean, you fight all these Disney villains, so it's a lot of fun, seeing them in a video game, not just in a movie. Couple things I didn't like about it, which leads me into my overall I'll get to, but a couple things I didn't like was the no waypoint. And what I mean by that is it didn't give you any sort of direction of where you want to, or where you're supposed to go. Like I was talking about the Tarzan world, they literally will throw you into this world and you just have to wander around and hope that you trigger some cutscene or trigger something that tells you like, okay, I'm going the right way. Think of it like this. If you were to play the game BioShock, if you play BioShock, you get put into these levels. And in these levels, you have to do backtracking. You go into new rooms at different times and you go left, right, straight, and then you have to go back to the beginning. But there's always that arrow telling you which way to go. Imagine playing BioShock, those giant levels, without any sort of direction. It would get extremely frustrating, and that's how Kingdom Hearts was. There was no direction whatsoever. In the Tarzan world, I probably spent 30 to 45 minutes just wandering around, going in and out of rooms, just hoping I'd trigger some sort of cutscene. So that got extremely frustrating at times, and going forward, I hope Kingdom Hearts 2 in this pack will fix those mistakes. Another thing I didn't like, the gummy ship, which was a ship that you traveled from world to world. I showed Matt and Dave this gummy ship, and it literally is couple two-dimensional. It looks like you're playing Star Fox. It's terrible.
It's just blocks. Yeah.
It looks like Star Fox from Super Nintendo. It's just literally just shapes put on top of one another. And it also reminds me when Homer in The Simpsons goes to visit his brother, and his brother is a car owner, and he lets Homer develop a car, and it looks like a weird-shaped car with like a dome on top. And it looks just like that. It's a joke. It's terrible. So that leads me right into my overall. Those dislikes, like the no waypoint. Oh, another big thing that was frustrating was healing yourself in the middle of a boss fight. There was no fast heal. There wasn't like a hold down L1 and hit square for a heal or hit triangle. There was none of that. You had to scroll down into your items and scroll down, find the right potion you want to use. By the time you're dead. Like, it was so frustrating having to do that every single time. So moving forward into the rest of these games, I'm hoping that Kingdom Hearts 2 fixes the waypoint. I hope they fix the item, the health item. I hope there's a shortcut for that because they have a shortcut for magic. No reason not to have a potion shortcut. So they have to fix that. So overall, though the game is a lot of fun, it might just come down to the person playing it, because I know our friend Tony, we talk about, he played the game. He didn't enjoy it as much as I did. I kind of accepted the PS2 quirks to it where, this was PS2. It's going to be a little frustrating at times. And so I still enjoyed it a lot, though. So I'm going to give this game a 7.5. I know it sounds a little generous for being a PS2 game, but my enjoyment level of this game was extremely high. I would say my enjoyment level was at like a 9 during this game. Like, I just love the game. I thought it was tons of fun. But with all these little just bugs to it where I want to see the shortcuts and I want to see the waypoint, that just needs to be fixed, and the gummy ship needs to go like ASAP. So the collection is $45 right now at GameStop. That's a little pricey. I would not pay that right now. If you're kind of on the fence about this, wait till I finish a couple more of these games and I'll let you know if $45 is worth the price tag. But as of right now, Kingdom Hearts Final Mix, the first one, I really enjoyed that one, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the games. So, Dave, tell us about NBA 2K17.
All right, so NBA 2K17, I played NBA 2K15 and 16, and here's what I've noticed about 17. First of all, the defense ratings are still probably the lowest priority statistic when you're drafting a team or you're picking a team. Defense is really just up to how the computer feels like playing it. You only control one guy on the court at a time, so you can't do anything about off-ball screens or anything like that. It's especially noticeable that the defense doesn't really do a whole lot against the computer, because they hit shots over your players at will, regardless of who's guarding them. So Kawhi Leonard out on the wing trying to block a guy shooting a three-pointer, nope, that's going to go in if the computer wants it to. So the graphics are still really nice. They got a few updated player models from 16. All the biggest players always get that remodel every single year. I haven't played a lot of the single player because I have no interest really at all in creating myself as an NBA player and going through a story mode. That's one of the reasons that I made fun of Madden. If you listen to our E3 episode, the new Madden's going to have a really questionable story mode that I have no interest in even trying. So I mostly play for the multiplayer and for the online leagues and offline leagues. I would say that my pros for NBA 2K17, now again, this is based on purely multiplayer. It is a 2017 NBA game, so you got the current rosters. The shooting feels good. Some of the dunk and dribble animations are actually really pretty unique and cool. Signature shots from big stars like Steph Curry and LeBron James are there. For the cons, sometimes the color of the paint on the court interferes with the shot meter, which is annoyingly placed at your player's feet. So I have legitimately missed free throws because I could not tell where the end of my shot meter was. When playing against the computer, you'll also be passing the ball like in a specific direction, but for some reason it'll go to a guy who's nowhere near the place you're trying to pass to, which I know that Connor was feeling that frustration when he played with me.
It's always been an NBA 2K thing, though. Like passing,
yeah.
Going back to NBA 2K7, trying to do a fast break with Steve Nash and Amari Stoudemire on the Suns, trying to dish him the ball when I want to dish him the ball. It didn't always work. It's just
backcourt violation. Just throws to a guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Cross half court yet.
Like,
so I would say that issue is still glaring. The CPU, on the other hand, holy cow, man! Any player that the computer controls turns into Peyton Manning with the basketball. He will pass full court, and not only am I not joking, you will get passed on full court, but it's after your player makes a bucket and he's stuck in some celebration animation that you don't want him to be in, and the computer just bombs it full court to a guy who's wide open, who's somehow unguarded by four players on your team, who makes an open layup after a full court pass. Now, when you go to do that, you'll be throwing the ball into the stands. You'll hit the guy who's selling popcorn. I've seen the ball go over the basketball hoop on a pass. So you can't do it, but the computer can. That's kind of annoying. Another thing that I did not like is I got frequently locked in like weird animations where my guys would just run out of bounds for no apparent reason, or even worse, a player who's receiving a pass has a receiving the pass animation, and he'll put his foot out of bounds to catch it, and you'll pass to a guy who's out of bounds who was inbounds when you actually hit the pass button. And my final con of this game is it's the only NBA game out. So, I mean, if you want to get an NBA game, this is unfortunately simulation style, the only one that's available to you. Would give it a 7 out of 10. And I hope that the return of NBA Live in 2018 will result in improvements for both of these franchises, because I love NBA Live, and 2K has had in my opinion, no major improvements for about 4 years running now. So,
Yeah, I played that blacktop mode with you when I was at your house, and my huge con with that NBA 2K17 is the jerseys on the blacktop mode. Why are they wearing those? They're not even wearing their actual uniforms. They're wearing the white T-shirts, the ringers or the ballers or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then wearing white T-shirts versus blue T-shirts. Like, come on. Like, they used to wear, like, I picked Steve Nash, and I was hoping he'd come out in his Phoenix Sun uniform, his MVP year. But no, he comes out in baller shirt.
Yep.
Huge disappointment. So hopefully NBA 2K18 can improve on what they've done right in the past. So let's get down.
You can tell me how that game is. I'll buy live.
You can tell me how live is because I know a guy who's a big fan of live. He'll be excited. So we'll see if it's going to turn out good or not. So let's get down to our discussion of Nintendo. Nintendo has 3 different avenues that they're going down right now. They have the SNES Classic coming out in September. They just announced about a month ago that they are going to fully support the 3DS through the year 2018, which is a long time still. And then they still have tons of people still wanting that Switch. So I'm going to give you guys some stats real fast, and I'm going to throw it down to you guys. So the stats I'm providing with you is the first thing, the SNES Classic launch. When they launched the NES Classic, they shipped 2.3 million units. They pretty much sold every single one. You cannot find any. And then they discontinued it for no reason. Now, the next thing, 3DS support through 2018. They've shipped so far 66 million 3DS units. Within the last year, they've shipped and sold 8 million in the last year. So they're still producing 3DSs and they're still selling 3DSs. They're still consumers are still coming in and buying these things. Since the Switch launch, they've shipped 2.74 million Switches, and then now you can't find one anywhere. So is this a good idea for Nintendo to be going down so many different avenues when they've had success with the classic things, the 3DS, and the Switch? So Dave, what do you think?
I think, in a word, their focus is and has forever been and only will be the Switch since they announced it. And to kind of back up my stance on that, I want to talk about the Classic real quick. The Classic is a dead-end product. When Nintendo sells you an NES Classic, they no longer can make money off you. You can't go on the internet and download more games that they can sell you for $5 a piece. You have one available controller from Nintendo that you can get a second controller of so you can play with your friends. You don't have to pay them a subscription to any sort of network service that they have, like a Xbox Live or PSN. So when you buy that Classic, it becomes essentially the only sale they know they're going to make on you. Now, if you look at the Switch is something that I've already spent more money on stuff for my Switch than I have on the actual Nintendo Switch itself. I spent $300 on the Switch. I probably put in about an extra $350, $400 on an extra Pro controller, an extra set of Joy-Con. I'm going to be subscribing to their service where they'll be getting a guaranteed $20 a year from me, probably kicking that up after they see its success after the first year. So whereas the Classic is a dead end, they can't make any more money off you on it. The Switch is something that's organic and can keep being paid for over and over again. And I also want to point out that I think it was completely intentional. No matter what Nintendo says, it is completely intentional that they did not make any more NES Classics and that they're only releasing a limited SNES Classic. Because those two things, those items, are just to increase Nintendo's presence in the media and in conversations between people. It's kind of like a hype. It's like releasing limited edition action figures that not everybody can have. So the value of one NES Classic that you have right now, both you guys have one, and you could sell it right now used for probably around $80 to $100. Tell me if everyone was able to get one.
More than that.
And if anyone was able to get one, you would be at the mercy of retail value, and you probably have to sell it for less, because that's what happens with commonly sold things. As far as the 3DS goes, I don't know about you guys, but if I'm a developer and I know that the Switch is going to essentially it's hybrid today, but it's going to be the next generation's handheld. I don't think they're going to come out with another 3DS or equivalent. The Switch is replacing that in terms of mobility. I'm going to develop my game for the Switch, not only because if I'm an indie developer, I can just make a quick game, throw it on the marketplace, and people can download it. But I know that the install base of the Switch is growing, whereas the install base of the 3DS, although growing, has been selling less and less every year since it's been out, and that thing's going to be not even supported after 2018. So that's kind of my thing. I think the Switch is the future, and it's the only thing they're actually focused on, and they're just completely pulling the wool over people's eyes and pretending that they're even interested in these other things.
So, Matt, where do you stand on this?
So I think I'll follow in the same sort of format that David is. So the SNES Classic, I feel like that is just a very easy and no-brainer profit maker for Nintendo. I mean, I don't know much about production and how much it costs to make one and all that, but I got to assume that they're selling the SNES for $80, right? Retail.
Right.
I think it's $80. So I think
plus you get 2 controllers with it.
Right, you do get the 2 controllers with it. So I just think it's really easy for them to make those. I know Dave in the past from our just friendly conversations has said it's essentially, a USB stick with games on it, which is true. It's true. It's just the console around that kind of a USB stick type ideal. So I can't imagine this costing them that much money to make. So I think, in a way, I agree with Dave. I think it is getting their name out there more. It's keeping them relevant and keeping the hype up for Nintendo as a company. I think, though, that it's a very easy profit maker for them. I think it's a no-brainer. I don't think it's going to take much of their time and resources away from anything else. I think it's very easy for them to get that out. In terms of the 3DS, like you were saying, Connor, they sold 8 million last year. Console's been out for almost 6 years now, or about 6 years.
Yeah. So.
Right. So I think obviously there's still a fan base. There's still people buying the system, the console itself, and I think it makes sense for them to continue to support it because they know there's a fan base there. They know they can still make money, and I think just from a business perspective, they don't want to pull a Sony and just fall off with their handheld like they did with the Vita. So I think the 3DS just makes sense for them to keep supporting. And I think what'll happen too, which is a little bit along the lines of what Dave was saying, I don't think it's just going to die, but I think it's going to slowly start to kind of die, because I think what's going to happen is they're going to fully support it through 2018. And then I think what they're going to do is with the Switch, obviously that's the moneymaker now because that's the new technology. It's the hype. I think what's going to happen is they're going to still support the 3DS with maybe, some titles that, might be like a Kirby or Yoshi or something, but it's not going to be the same as they're going to release for the Switch. I think all the big titles are going to head over to the Switch, and that's what people are going to want to gravitate towards. The 3DS still are going to get some quality games, but I don't think it's going to be that big blockbuster or anything like that they might have gotten before. So I think that's where they're heading with it. And I know the Switch, like you were saying, the sales, I think you said 2.74 around there. Some other things I looked up is that, so the Switch sold about 1.2 million its first 2 months of sales, and the Wii sold 1.1 million its first 2 months of sales. So the Switch is outpacing the Wii right now, and the Wii went on to sell a little over 100 million consoles worldwide. So, I mean, obviously it's too early to predict what's going to be the future of the Switch, but if that's any indication, I think Nintendo would be wise to put more and more resources towards the Switch. And I know the president of Nintendo, Reggie, has repeatedly stated that they're going to keep a steady flow of games for the Switch, which is what they failed to do with the Wii U, and that's why the Wii U is their worst selling console ever. But
not to mention, I don't think people were really clear on what the Wii U was when it was announced. I know Connor and I talked about this, but it's like, are you selling me a gamepad that connects to my Wii? Are you the name of it was, we make fun of Xbox One X, but at least people know it's a different console. They made it very clear.
Well, go back and watch the E3 revealing of Wii U, and you tell me what it is after that. Watching that, Dave, I've told you about that, and you went back and watched. But here's my question: the Switch is obviously a hit. People are calling GameStop, calling places, looking for the Switch. GameStop saying, like, we'll have some soon, whatever.
Right.
Why are they taking the time to feed off into the SNES Classic, feed off into the 3DS? Why not just take everything and say, like, listen, like, if we're serious, like, you guys are claiming that they're serious about the Switch, why are they not just saying why are they coming out with an SNES Classic and not just focusing everything on the Switch to make everybody happy if that's the demand right now? You know what I mean? Like, why?
I got you. I got an answer for you right now. So there's an article I read from MCVUK.com, and Nintendo actually addressed that exact same question about the shortage of the Switches. And essentially, the SNES Classic is a USB stick with a case on it, and that takes nothing to produce. The Nintendo Switch, so Nintendo says, needs very specified parts that are challenged to even acquire so that they can build the system itself. So what Nintendo is claiming right now, which I believe for the most part, is that the supply of the innards, as you would say, of the Nintendo Switch, the chips and the bolts on the inside, the suppliers for those parts are not getting them the parts fast enough for them to make those units as quickly as they can. So you either have Nintendo factories that are sitting there dead doing nothing because they can't make Switches because they don't have enough Tegra chips or whatever NVIDIA's giving them, or you make a bunch of SNES Classics in that factory. And like Matt said, you make a couple bucks on each one of those while you're waiting around. You only put a limited amount of those out, which is ludicrous that they've already said that they're cutting it off in 2017, which supports both mine and Matt's statements that it's just a quick buck and it's to keep Nintendo relevant. And it's to say, here's a collector's item that not everyone can have. So people are going to value it like a $300 piece of equipment that they're selling for $80. That probably cost them about $12 to make total with controllers.
Yeah, I think the SNES Classic is a joke to them. I think they really don't care because if you look at the past 2 years or last year, really, Pokemon Go came out last summer. That got Nintendo back on the map, and then later that year, Pokemon, what was it, Sun and Moon came out for 3DS.
Yep.
So everyone's on the Pokemon craze, like, oh, I got to go buy a 3DS now. So they saw a huge spike in 3DS sales just from Pokemon having that Pokemon Go intro.
Oh, yeah.
And then people wanted it so bad that they went out and bought a 3DS. That's what happened with that. But then late last year, NES Classic came out, got people talking, wanting an itch for more Nintendo console products. Boom, here's the Switch. Now everyone wants the Switch. And I think with the SNES Classic, Nintendo just feels like, oh, we have to give them something. Like, we did not expect NES Classic to be such a hit. Like, let's just give them the... I think after the SNES Classic, they're done with these classic things just because maybe they'll do a handheld classic, like Game Boy Advance, Game Boy, combined
Game Boy Color Classic. Yeah.
I don't see them going the N64 route.
Yeah, that would be a tough one.
Only because those games are still pretty pricey on eShop.
Right, yeah. They're still
like people would pay like $150 for one though? Like, how about you guys specifically?
People would pay for it.
Would you pay $150 would you say, hey Dave, if you see an N64 Classic, pick one up for me. I'll give you $150 for it. Would you be willing to shell out the $150?
Absolutely not. No chance of $150
Matt,
for a 64.
what about you?
I wouldn't pay $150, but I know people would for sure. I definitely know people would. People were paying $300, $400, $500 for the NES. So I don't know. I think people would easily pay $150.
Yeah.
All right.
It's just Nintendo has a lot going on right now, and it just seems like they don't even know what they're trying to accomplish.
They're notorious for, okay, we're going to hype everyone for this console or technology, and then we're only going to sell like 2 at each store. And then once those are gone, you have to wait a few months now until another one comes back, and everyone's just frustrated. It's not even like a good marketing system. I feel like it just makes everyone angry.
It just makes us like it's a huge love-hate with Nintendo. Like, God, I hate how much I love them. Like, I don't want to want their products, but I want them so bad.
Yeah.
It just drives me crazy.
Well, what was it, I think it was like a month ago, I stopped at a GameStop, and just out of curiosity, I asked them, how many times a day do you get asked about the NES Classic still, and how many times a day do you get asked about the Switch still? Now, I live, in suburban Illinois, so this is a very small sample here, but they told me that they literally get hundreds of calls between the 2 or 3 stores they have in my area. Each store individually gets at least 50 to 100 calls a day asking for either the Switch or the NES Classic still.
Unbelievable. Wow. Unbelievable.
Just give it to the people, Nintendo.
Just make us happy for once. Just have the desire to want money, Nintendo. Just want that money.
Don't you want to make money?
Just get that cash.
Take my money. Take
my money.
We're lining up to give them money. They just don't want it. They don't want it.
Give me Mario toothpaste. Take my money.
So that's Nintendo. Let's get down to a couple news stories here. The first one, or maybe the only one I want to talk about, was right before we started recording. I saw a couple WWE 2K18 details that were announced. Since WWE, we're big wrestling fans here on this podcast, so we really pay attention to this kind of stuff. But the WWE has gone through a huge transformation over the last year of going to Raw and SmackDown. And they said they haven't released any details specifically, but they said, like, hey, we're going to do more single player, more story mode, and more with the universe. Here's what I want to see from WWE 2K18 in like 30 seconds. I want to see them stop pretending that it's real and just tell us this is fake. Everybody knows it's fake. There's no secret anymore.
Yeah.
And just let us have the complete control over universe mode. That's what I want. Complete control. If I see a match between R-Truth and Brock Lesnar for the title that got randomly filtered in, I don't want to have to play this match because I don't want, what if I sim it and R-Truth actually wins? Like, I don't want that to actually happen, so now I got to play this match. I want to just say Brock Lesnar's the winner. Next pay-per-view, whatever. That's what I want. Full control over everything universe mode. I want to set up matches between people for titles and say, this is who's going to win. So I don't have to play through every single Raw and SmackDown, so I get that projected picture I want in the pay-per-view.
Yeah. And then you don't even get it sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's just really frustrating. So that's what I'm hoping for WWE 2K18. Do you guys have anything to add for that?
Just giving people the option, like you said. I mean, some people are going to want it to play out like it's an actual real story, and some people, like I'm pretty sure all three of us here, want to be like, yeah, R-Truth, you're going to lose in 10 seconds to Brock Lesnar. I'm going to put a time on that too. Yeah. You're going to get, F5 4 times in a row, and then,
full control.
With your last ounce of life, you're going to, walk away 5 minutes later after everyone left the arena. and also, I want to go ahead and say, why don't we have an online, like, a Madden connected franchise mode for NBA yet, or WWE yet? I mean, is that going to be? They have it for the 2K series for NBA. Why don't we have a unified career mode that us three can play and we can all fight for the title online together? That makes no sense why that's not in a game yet.
Yeah. I completely agree with you that has to be done.
Totally. Yes, has to
I want to watch Matt wrestle a match and run my guy down there and beat him up in the middle of the match and get him disqualified. And then I want Connor to come down and start fighting both of us. That's what I want. I want something that's going to let us do that.
Then we have a triple threat for the next pay-per-view. Boom, done. That's exactly.
We make our own path.
All right. So that's what I want to see out of WWE. That's what I'm hoping when they come out with those details, that's what I want to see done. So let's get down to our list and end this episode. With our list, it's the summertime games, just games that we have very fond memories of playing, not necessarily that they're really good or really bad or anything like that, just fun memories. So I'll get the ball rolling with my summertime game. Number 3 is Road Rash for Nintendo 64. It's that little motorcycle game where you just beat each other off of the motorcycles with wrenches and bats and stuff like that. I just played that game many summer nights, so it was a ton of fun. Dave, what is your number 3 summertime game?
My number 3 summertime game is NBA Jam, and pretty much since it came out on Sega Genesis, my friends and I every summer had a routine. We'd go outside, play basketball with our little brothers and sisters and the kids down the street, and then when it got too dark for that, we'd come inside and we'd play NBA Jam.
Sick. Matt?
My number 3 is Red Dead Redemption. I remember playing that game. The only memories I have of that game is over the summer for some reason, and I don't know why, because that seems like a... like a holiday type release, but that I had a lot of summer memories with Red Dead.
It probably was a fall release if it was a Rockstar game. I can't remember when that. Maybe it was a May release. I think
it might have been a May. Yeah,
I think it was. Can't quite remember, but my number 2 is Athens 2004, and that's kind of leading into Athens, Beijing 2008, London 2012, those summer Olympic games. I'm a big time runner, ran in high school and college, and Matt too, and so we loved all those Olympic games. Those games were just classic fun left and right. Dave, what is your number 2?
Pokemon, any version. We spent millions and millions of hours sitting on sidewalks looking at Pokemon cards while playing our Pokemon Game Boy games, talking about which our favorite Pokemon was and whose Pokemon was a higher level. It's just Pokemon summer.
Yeah.
Matt?
My number 2 is Final Fantasy X, which this game was actually released in July. I don't remember the exact year, but it was released in July because I believe I got it for my birthday, which is in July. So one of my favorite games of all time, and just countless memories.
Yeah. My number 1 is Battle Tank Global Assault for Nintendo 64. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, every summer that comes around, I always think back to when I was 11, 12 years old, just sitting in the morning playing Battle Tank on my Nintendo 64. I don't know why. For some reason, those memories just always come back to me every June or July, just playing that game over the summer. I don't know if it's just... I don't know. It's just something about that game. It's not even that good of a game. It's just I just remember playing it a lot.
Yeah.
Dave, what is your number 1 summer game?
Well, you guys know that I've amassed about 1,000 hours on record in Dota 2. But when I think summer games, I think the only game I've probably played more than that game, which is Counter-Strike. And I played Counter-Strike from the time 1.6 was a thing, and I installed it as a mod for Half-Life, and I literally played it every single summer, some version of Counter-Strike, up until I was pretty much done with my junior college. So 4 summers worth, probably several thousand hours. Counter-Strike is probably my most played summer game, period.
You've played a lot of Counter-Strike. Matt, what's your number 1 game?
My number 1, which I thought would be a big surprise, is Athens 2004. I can't believe you said that. I can't believe you said it. Athens, same thing like Connor said. We were both in track and cross country and stuff growing up, so a huge game for us. My one fond memory is spending the night over at Connor's one time, and we stayed up till 4 a.m. doing rhythmic gymnastics for some reason. We were hooked on that.
That was the event.
That game was awesome.
You know what, guys? I'm changing my vote. My number 1 is now Summer Athens Gymnastics 2007.
What?
Yeah, so that was our summertime games. Please get on our Facebook page and tell us what your favorite summertime games are. We want to hear from the listeners out there. So that was episode 9 of the LAN Partners Podcast. Please leave a comment. Tell us what you think. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, get on our Twitch page, subscribe to us. Please get our weekly episodes every Thursday. And again, we will see you next week. Thank you for listening.